Yes, welcome to Tiger TV for another week. Good to have you here. And two blokes who I've got on the couch with me tonight, it's a real pleasure to have them. Neville Crowe, Hall of Fame Richmond player, and another great Tiger, and Paul Broderick. Please make them welcome. How are you, fellas?
Getting better by the minute, mate.
Better by the minute. Two wins in a row, Crowe. It's not bad, is it?
Yeah, it's, we're on a roll, mate. On a roll.
Well, it just lifts everyone, doesn't it? It's amazing what a win does. People always say that, you know, a week's a long time in footy and you can turn it around and all that sort of stuff, but it does make you walk a bit taller when the side's played well.
I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think the week against Melbourne, when we had it wrapped up and then didn't go on in the last quarter, yet last week we played 4 quarters of real good, strong, tough footy. Nothing too pretty, mind you. I think the wind had a bit to do with that, but it was great to have a big win and finish a side off, as John said out there before, you know, to just crunch them at the end.
Well, it's a funny sort of stat because the Tigers over the last couple of years, well, last year they won a lot of games and played really well, but never really finished sides off, but they certainly did that on the weekend, didn't they?
You bet, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What do you reckon, mate?
Yeah, no, it was probably the first time in a while that I've seen us actually put the nail in the coffin.
Is that got to do with kicking for goal, the accuracy, or is that just a mental approach where once you've got a side down, you just keep going and keep going?
Yeah, I think there's certain stages in the game that when you do get that opportunity to, you've got to convert, and there might be 3 or 4 opportunities. If you don't nail them at that time, it keeps the opposition still with a sniff. And on the weekend, they did kick those goals, and that just kept the motivation going and the enthusiasm.
Well, one bloke I was wrapped with that he finished with 3 goals, I think, for the game was Tiver, because I'm a big rap for Tiver. Love the way he plays, and the game against North Melbourne a few rounds ago, you know, he missed all those shots and everyone was on his back, but I just think he's the sort of guy that could probably come out and kick 5 or 6 one game and just blow us all away.
Yeah, I think Tibbers is one of those guys that you take that little incy-tinsy bit of confidence deal away. I reckon that's an ingredient. If you could bottle confidence, you know, you'd make £1 million. £1 million, that's shelving my age, isn't it? Yeah, and a few dollars as well. But I think at the end of the day, it's a very difficult thing to find sometimes. And I think that's all that's happened this last week or so, when they've, I guess, thrown caution to the wind a bit and had a go. And just, I'm sure this is what Danny's suggesting to them, you know, take risks, go for it. That element of confidence comes back. You just see them, everything they're doing, there's nothing tentative about it. They're really having a crack at it, and that's resulted in Tivendale doing what we know he does best, you know, just breaking clear and kicking great goals.
Well, after that Kangaroos game, Crowe, what do you do with a young bloke like Tiv? Do you keep bringing it up? Do you try and forget about it? Do you talk about the fact that he missed quite a few shots at goal, and probably gettable shots at goal in that particular game? Or do you just sort of just keep pumping him up and saying, look, next week will be a different story?
Well, I think with things like that, there's always a technique factor comes in somewhere on the line. I was noted for missing goals too, I might add, back in the early days. And the thing that was put to me was just totally focus. Don't focus on the end result, but just focus on each step along the way to the end result. In other words, A, how you're holding the ball, B, as you run up correct and proper, and then the dropping of the ball and the follow through and all. If you just focus on those one step at a time and take away the end result, it just seems to make life a lot easier for you.
Yeah. Look, and I don't mean this to be sort of all on Tiver, it's just we got started on it, but Brodders, I don't reckon the competition's seen a genuine goal-kicking wingman since Matera was sort of playing in his heyday back in the mid-90s. Are there many others sort of going around?
Brad Johnson from the Bullies can break the game open like Tiver can, so he's probably one that comes to mind who can, at full pace, pretty much convert quite regularly, I reckon. He's quite explosive. You're right, Matera's probably, yourself, Nathan, was very inspirational through your career.
A lot of points. I had that technique problem that Crowe was talking about, and the fact that I probably wasn't on the ground all that often too. That's very hard to kick goals from the twos or the bench, and so I tried to make do. Knight has retired a couple of weeks ago, and you've been a year out of the game now. Do you miss it?
No, I haven't missed it for most of this year. I think it came to the stage last year where I really had enough mentally and physically. The game is so fast these days that my type of player, with lack of leg speed, can struggle, I suppose, at times. But yeah, mentally it really took a lot out of me last year, and I just basically had enough of the whole game and what's required to play at the level. So I haven't missed it at all.
Will you pull the boots on ever again?
I won't say no. I don't know, I suppose the last month or two I've probably got into it a bit more, running and that side of things every now and then. And I don't know, I've got to sit down the next few months and really decide whether I want to go down a coaching path or a playing path, and what sort of what aspect I do that. So yeah, next couple of months I'll work it out.
Okay, thanks, fellas. Well, it's time to call Mark up on the couch for the Borderley Player of the Year award, and Mark's going to give us our 3, 2 and 1 votes. And welcome back. We have got Mark up on the couch. We've managed to squeeze him in. We've got a couple of big boys up there, Brothers. Well, actually, no, I am having a go at you. You've just really let yourself go, haven't you?
Oh, you're unbelievable, mate.
No, you're looking good. You're looking good. How'd you go over the votes on the weekend?
Oh, I think Richo was fantastic, mate, and he'd get 3 definitely.
Okay, 2.
Cambo was pretty good for 2, and we've snuck Coggo in for a vote.
Terrific.
Keep him up on top, up on the leaderboard. So yeah,
Cambo has had a good year, hasn't he?
he's been good. Yeah, he's been very good.
I don't know, he does cop it. He cops it from perhaps more the Richmond supporters than anyone else. I reckon the
Yeah, I think he's a bit of
harder on him than even the opposition.
I think he's a bit of a scapegoat sometimes. I don't agree with it because I think he's great. I think his skills are really good. Unfortunately, he hasn't had many blokes helping him out in the middle.
Yeah.
We've missed this bloke a bit this year, I think, unfortunately.
Well, I was going to get to that. Is that, do you think, an area that we could perhaps look at in our recruiting to try and recruit a short, stocky bloke with thick legs?
If his name was Michael Voss, he'd be all right, though. But, you know, there's not too many of them about at the moment, unfortunately.
It would be very handy. Yeah. Now, Mark, thanks for coming on the couch. We have got the box set of the Borderley wine.
Cheers, mate.
It is a good drop, and they've been.
I can vouch for that.
Yeah, you can vouch for that. They've been a terrific sponsor for Richmond, so very, very lucky to have those guys. Well, those votes make it fairly interesting. Coghlan has gone to 14 votes, 1 in front of Cambo, who's jumped up to 13. Richo's 3 votes has jumped him up to 11, and we've got a host of other players below those guys. Well, the game was on Foxtel on the weekend, and only 19,000 people went to the game itself, so we've got a quick highlights package to have a look at.
One more time, this got me feeling so free. We're gonna celebrate, celebrate and dance so free. One more time, this got me feeling so free. We're gonna celebrate, celebrate and dance so free. One more time, this got me feeling so free. free. We're gonna celebrate, celebrate and dance so free. One more time, this got me feeling so free. We're gonna celebrate, celebrate and dance so free. Time, this got me feeling so free. We're gonna celebrate, yeah.
Welcome back. Fellas, I didn't get a chance to actually catch up on where you're at the moment. Crowe, we saw you obviously as a player and then as president here for a long, long time, but you're back floating around the club, aren't you?
Yeah, floating around, probably an operative word. Yeah, I was invited by Mark Brayshaw to come back and or to consider a position in the sales and marketing area, which I guess I've been doing for a fair while in another totally removed field. But after a bit of thought, I was about to retire, in actual point of fact, and mow a few lawns and prune a few roses, so I was out of there. But it's very easy to come back to an organisation that you love with the passion that I do, and hopefully do something to help the revenue raising part of the club. More specifically, I'm looking after one of the coterie groups, and we're expanding a few more ideas for next year as well. It's been a big learning curve, and it's terrific. I've got a great young team of guys there, including Des Ryan, of course, and Johnny Toop and Clint Hillis, and Adrienne Sarkozy, who's a great events organiser, and Broderick is in there doing his little thing, organising the players.
Making the coffees. And
yeah, making the coffees, yeah. Slinging a lot of unsavoury comments around the place. No, but it's a great environment in which we work, and I think we've proven so far that our little department, even though the club is up against it a bit financially at the moment because of our attendance drops and so forth and so on, we're kicking goals in that area, and it's just good fun to be back involved with the club.
Brothers?
Yeah, as Nev said, I'm over there as well in the marketing side of things, just basically coordinating the players for appearances that we're obligated to do on behalf of the club, and any AFL requirements that we need to do to gain development. So I'm pretty busy, yeah.
But aside from Richmond, you were also one of the first people to get involved in the Next Goal program that the AFL Players Association have run.
Yeah.
You might want to explain that.
Yeah, the Next Goal program has been set up for people who have either just got out of the game or towards the end of their career. And it's basically, I suppose, a work experience type structure that you work about 30 days in an organisation or an industry that you're looking at getting involved in after you do finish your career. So I just thought it was a good opportunity to probably just see what else is around, and I'm currently working with the VFL as well, probably one day a week or so, just to gain some experience what it's like in that environment, and whether I want to go down that path, or B, whether I, at this stage, I'll probably look like I might stay on in a marketing role at this stage. So
yeah, good. Crowe, as an ex-president, Clinton Casey's come out recently and mentioned that there might be a move to more performance-based contracts for the players. How do you see that?
Given that I've been involved in a performance sort of industry all my life, I'm all for it, I must confess. I don't have any difficulties with players receiving the sort of money they're receiving, because after all, they're putting on the show, and there's a big dollar in footy. But I sometimes cringe a bit when I know, I don't know accurately, but we can all take a guess based on what we read in the papers, that some of these guys are getting paid extraordinarily big money, and if their performance isn't up to standard, it certainly wouldn't be accepted in the corporate world. Now, maybe that sounds a bit harsh, but I'm all for performance-based contracts, and if people do perform up to their potential on a regular basis, they shouldn't be afraid of that. And if they go beyond their potential, and that means there's an extra dollar there, I'm just a great believer that you don't get, it's not what you get paid by demand, if you like. And I know some of the demand, mind you, is coming from some of the managers. I don't know the intricacies of all of that, but one knows that there is certainly a percentage there for them, so the higher base figure, the higher their reward. But I'd rather be paid on how I perform, and if I had my time over again, that's the way I'd run.
Yep. Well, look, we've got a few more issues that I'd like to talk to you blokes about, but we need to have a listen to Mark Dragosevic, who's going to tell us about Tiger Island.
Dragosevic, clever kick. Has he kicked the goal? Right. That is fantastic stuff from Mark Dragosevic.
Hi.
Thank you very much. Welcome back. Fellas, we've had a big occasion. You may not have realised this. Well, last week, Andy Callaway played his 100th game. That was fantastic. This week, we've got Mark Chaffey playing his 100th game. Again, terrific result. There's one guy at the club who studded his Bootstudder 500th game of football. Ilmar Tilton's better known as Drac. Terrific effort, isn't it?
Oh yeah, Drac's one of those guys, isn't he? Paul, that's been around the club forever, and I remember he's a very, very young bloke, being there as Kevin McAvee's understudy, that's a pun, isn't it? Understudying the Boots. And he was a terrific guy, and he was one of those blokes that just lived and breathed for Richmond. I think it's been a huge part of his life, and his wife Margaret, she's terrific supporters of the club, particularly when we had our Save Our Skins campaign, and I opened up the doors to everybody at that stage, and they used to come up on our Thursday nights to have a drink and just rub shoulders with all the people that were able to get along there, former players, etc. It was a great time, and he's a bonza bloke.
Well, I mean, we probably refer to them as behind-the-scenes people. And Broderick, Neville sort of touched on the Save Our Skins campaign. Drac and those type of people are the ones that really get clubs through. I mean, you went through it with Fitzroy in the late 80s, early 90s. Terrific people to have around, aren't they?
Oh, for sure. I mean, that's what the clubs are really all about, is the supporters like that who live and breathe for the club and just love being involved in whatever capacity they can. And Drac's a prime example of a person who loves being involved in this environment, and it's a credit to him. And
what do you get out of Drac? I mean, I spent a few years here, and he's just a terrific bloke, but you don't get much out of him. You've got to really push him, don't you? He doesn't get in anyone's face. He goes about his business and does his job.
No, he's very quiet, Drac. He'll stays in his Bootstudder's room there, and just every now and then you'll see his face pop around the corner, and out he comes, and all you can do is say good day and how you going, and he likes just to have a quiet chat to you, and it goes on with his work.
I'd actually encourage, and you blokes know what I'm talking about, I'd encourage anyone, if you get a chance, go into the Richmond rooms at the MCG and have a look where the Bootstudder spends his afternoon. It's like a broom cupboard, isn't it?
Yeah.
And for the last 20-odd years, that's what he's been doing every weekend. It's a terrific job. Crowe, it was only 12 years ago that we had the Save Our Skins campaign out there rattling tins. You proud of how the club's kicked on?
Oh yeah, look, that was an extraordinary time, and I think it was a time when Richmond people really gathered forces because they knew we were on the brink, and there were just some remarkable stories came out of that time, and just a tremendous bunch of people, many of them in this room, that contributed to getting the club back on its feet. And it was just a remarkable thing to say, we'll raise $1 million, and we had a deadline, and on the last day the final dollar rolled in to get the $1 million. So it was just a sensational time, and it just brought, I think, the best out in everybody that was truly Richmond, that they gathered together, and you got a huge momentum behind it. And I must confess, even at the start, I thought to myself, gee, are we going to raise $1 million? And the answer was everyone got behind it and said, yes, we are. And it was, there were magnificent people in the club then and still are, and it's great to see them up there and running and consolidating on the fact that those many thousands of people were out there that saved them, and we're now building on that. And given that we're having a bit of a tough year financially this year because our attendances have dropped away, there'll be challenges for us. It's just the roller coaster of life, I guess. Yeah. But it was a great time.
Well, it was good, and Richmond people sort of showed their true colours. But I think it takes someone of Neville's character to make sure that is driven, and I think every Richmond supporter thanks you for that, Crowe, for what you did back then.
Well, we thank them, mate.
Yeah. Well, look, we need to have a look at the Coburg guys, because they are travelling well. I mean, our attendances are down at the senior level, but the Coburg guys are going well, and I was out there yesterday and watched the boys. We are going to have a look at a few highlights, and while they run, I can tell you about the game. They absolutely thumped the Bendigo Diggers by 80 points.
Doesn't everyone?
Hang on, Crowe. Steady on. I did coach him for 2 years. Goal scorers were Craig Edney with 4 to follow his bag of 5 last week. Kane Pettifer with 3. 2 goals each to Chris Hyde and Craig Bitterscombe. Singles to Stephen Ziller, Talbot, Maggiore, Di Pasquale, McGrath, Hart and Paddy Steinford, who went off with a slight injury. Better players for Coburg were Talbot, Ziller, Carlson, Edney, Weston and Bitterscombe. Now that win ensures that they can finish no lower than 3rd on the ladder for the year, and certainly places them very well for the assault on the finals. They certainly had the wood over the Bendigo boys yesterday.
And it's just great to have that reserve grade team being serious contenders in the finals, because that gives you just once again a positive feeling about what can happen next year. And I don't know whether Paul, I'm sure he does agrees with this, but there's a huge gap now, isn't there? Yeah. Guys that can play good footy in the twos find it a lot harder to come up because it's such a fierce and intimidating game, particularly for younger and I guess smaller blokes like Edney, and even Roden and Cracker are finding it a bit tough to come up to that level, because it doesn't take long for them to be under the microscope from other sides, and they'll play on any weaknesses they can perceive, and it's a big challenge. But there's some real encouraging signs there, and I think that's going to be great for us for next year. We just might find some of those hard-at-it on-ballers that we're looking for.
Well, Brodders, you've seen them fairly closely this year and last year. Who are the young blokes going around for Coburg at the moment that are probably going to push for selection later this year for the last couple of games and probably make the next step next year?
I think Heidi's had a little taste there a week or two ago. Obviously, he's worked really hard over the last 12 months and probably deserves one or two more opportunities just to experience what it's like at the elite level. Obviously, Craig Edney's a real little ball magnet, as we call him. He's just one of those guys who keeps finding the thing. So he's a really good talent, but obviously his size might inhibit him at stages. Kane Pettifer, he's exciting. Hopefully Kane can get a couple more games under his belt. Crack, obviously, is a very good talent. Bitters, it'd be nice to see Bitters back up. Hopefully to get one or two more games before the year's out. He's really works hard, Bitters, and deserves every opportunity he can get. So,
what do we need to look out for, Brodders, against the Hawks this weekend?
Hawthorn have probably had a similar year in the sense that they're a bit of a roller coaster with them as well. Obviously they were playing for still a chance to make the finals last week against Collingwood, and they played very well and got up. So, but our boys have been good the last couple of weeks as well, so it should be actually a really good game.
It's a good game because the motivation's different for both clubs. Hawthorn are just on the brink. I think they are a good side. I really rate them. But our boys certainly have made some ground in the last 2 weeks, Crowe, and they'd want to finish off strongly, wouldn't they?
Oh, look, I think so, and it's just interesting to get that early season balance back there with the three big blokes, and I reckon that's an awesome task for any club. And with Brad running into a bit of form again, and I thought Stafford was great again on the weekend. Some of his palming was just brilliant. I just love watching them and able to use their hands like that. It's wonderful. And Richo being on fire at the moment, and I think that lifts everybody around the place when they can see that energy. The energy's there again. Whereas when the confidence was down, they look insipid. No one goes out and doesn't try, but it just looks that way when your confidence is not there. And I think that confidence is built beautifully in this last several weeks, and I reckon we'll account very well for Hawthorn and beat the living suitcase out of them.
Good, yes. Well, I hope you're right, Crowe. You've been right many times. I hope you're right again tonight. Fellas, thanks for coming in. Great to talk to a couple of Tiger legends that you both are, and I look forward to catching up with you again very shortly. Hope that the Tigers get up again this weekend, and to everyone else, thanks very much. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Top forward numbers there for both sides. Things starting to go Richmond's way.
G'day, I'm Mark Dragosevic, and welcome to this week's edition of Tigerland on Fox Footy. Tigerland is where you'll find out what's going on around the club and get all the important news and information on the players and coaches every Wednesday night. Well, last Saturday we had a magnificent victory over Fremantle. Let's check out some of the highlights.
Stafford the target, with him Brown the spoil. Down in front Bowden. Stafford goes into lend a hand. Hall from outside 50. Squares the ball looking for Richardson. It's got to beat Pavlich. Gets a free kick for holding.
Well, I'd love to see the replay, Matty, because I think they both had a bit of purchase on the jumpers here. Let's have a look. Well, that's nearly a free kick in itself, isn't it? Early on, it should have been a free kick to Matthew Richardson. And, yep, I'd have to give it that way. I didn't see Richardson hold any jumper there, Robbo.
Well, it was a good tussle between two big fellows, and I'd much rather see the umpire just call play on.
Yeah, but you can't hold a man's hand so he's only got one hand in the contest like he did early before the ball got there.
Richardson, his second shot for the afternoon. He's already got it behind. He would dearly love the opposite, and that is a goal. Well done to Matthew Richardson.
Looking towards the centre of the ground, that was where he made the error a few minutes ago.
Yeah, he's going there.
He's done it again. Now, can they make them pay this time? They couldn't last time. Tivendale gets a sniff, goes inside 50. From 45, he kicks it low with the wind, and kicks the goal.
That turnover could have cost him a goal.
Fair enough. The right forward pocket is a chance for Bowden. He does it well, doesn't he? Oh, he'd be pumped there, Joel Bowden. Looks to play on. Coughlin off the left. Lobs it a little high. No mark taken by Stafford, but he's back into the action. Well done, Tivendale. Can he break away? Yes, he can. He can give the hand pass. Coughlin tackled. There was to Seagate. He was held, didn't have the ball, in my opinion. Parker robbed of it by Richardson. Right on the goal line. Chance for Rogers. What has he done? Manufactured something out of nothing. Matthew Rogers has kicked a goal for Richmond.
Now, it's with Anthony Grover who restart play for the Dockers. Heads towards the wing. Woods with Campbell, and once again Campbell too clever, too strong in the air. To Coughlin, just steps around Cook quite nicely, and then drives it very long up towards Richardson. Crowe's with him, we picked that, but Richardson is very good on the ground, recovers and kicks his third.
Well, just a tonic for the Richmond fans here at the MCG. Matthew Richardson kicking his third goal, and the Tigers back to a 23-point advantage. Peter Bell got the hand pass away. Cook as well tackled. Farmer, Coughlin. Now Ottens for Richmond. Looks and delivers directly towards goal. Stafford couldn't get it, but Richardson's got 4. Matthew Richardson at the back of the pack. He's kicked 4 goals. The Tigers have had Tivendale, Chaffey, Fiora, great at running the lines, and Fremantle haven't had a player of that calibre.
Not a big crowd here today at the MCG, just a tick under 20,000, but most of them Tigers fans. Most of them would be very happy if this kick from Tivendale goes through, and it does. Yeah, they know they've got an advantage at the moment, and they're trading on it. They're going long and direct. Tivendale wanted Richardson. Over the back goes Richo. This will be number 5. It is!
Troy Simmons minding the mark, but Ottens with the football goes in towards the forward pocket area. Richardson, he's got it. Oh, wasn't that magnificent body work? Kept Pavlich away. He knew the ball was going to blow with the breeze towards the boundary line, and he was in perfect position and raked in the mark beautifully. I'll tell you what they have done, you call it then, Robbo, is they've kicked to advantage well to him today. Now, a couple of weeks ago, he was frustrated with the kicks going behind, dropping short, but that's to the advantage. He holds him off with his body strength, and then he can just lay into the ball like he did on that occasion. Well, this would be a tremendous return for Matthew Richardson. Kicked 5 last week, going for his 6th goal in the dying minutes of the game here against Fremantle. He's got it.
So a comfortable win in the end for the Tigers, who led at every change to eventually run out 50-point winners, 18-14-122, to Fremantle's 10-12-72. Matty Richardson again started up forward for the Tigers to finish with 6 goals, and was well supported by Greg Stafford with 4, Greg Tivendale with 3, and Joel Bowden with 2. Richo was at his brilliant best for the 2nd week in a row, pulling in 7 marks and kicking 6 goals 3 in a fantastic performance against Matthew Pavlich. Skipper Wayne Campbell racked up 34 possessions, continually setting up play out of defence, while Joel Bowden was at his damaging best, collecting 32 touches in a great performance. Brad Ottens and Greg Stafford provided match-up headaches for the Dockers, rotating between the ruck and up forward. Well, I'm joined now by last week's 100-game player Andrew Callaway and this week's to-be 100-game player Mark Chaffey. Thanks for joining me, boys, on Tigerland.
Thanks, Mac. G'day, Drager.
Well, Chubb, first of all, it was good for the boys to get a win in your 100th.
Yeah, a few of the boys missed out this year in their milestone games, so I suppose, yeah, to play your 100th and have a good win, it's always good.
And Mac, you'll be looking for a big performance from the boys 3 in a row this week for your 100th.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to Friday night's game. It's going to be a big game for us. Just hoping I can get through the banner a little bit easier than what Andy did on the weekend. He had trouble getting through there, but should be right.
Well, Chubb, you started out on the rookie list, is that right?
Yeah, on the sub list it was back then, yeah.
Yeah, and then just come through the system, what, by getting drafted, or how does that work?
Yeah, just played all right for a year on the sub list and then got drafted from there. So, yeah, I think the year I got drafted, the reserves played in the premiership, so that helped playing big crowds and showing the coaches you can play right in big crowds and a bit more pressure.
And Mark, you went to Caulfield Grammar, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. I went to Caulfield and same school as Andy and Andy's brother Dunk, and we also played at the same junior club, the Glen Waverley Rovers. So yeah, we sort of come into league footy down the same sort of path.
So is it true that you actually planned to play a 100th game together since you've been about 12, but you rolled your ankle last week? Oh, no, sorry, during the year, which yeah, really stuffed that up, didn't it?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It wasn't really planned. It would have been obviously it would have been great to play the 100th together, but yeah, rolled my ankle about a month ago, and it wasn't to be. So I nearly got up for the game, but just missed out. So 100 games this week though.
Well, good luck, Mac and Chubb. You're enjoying a good season so far, actually, both of you. But what do you put that down to? I mean, I know the team's not playing so, or hasn't been playing so well, but started to find a bit of form now.
Yeah, I suppose the team's playing a bit better now. I think it just comes down to a bit of confidence. A lot of players are probably down on confidence when we're losing, and it can turn around pretty quickly, as you've seen. So hopefully just win a few more games towards the end of the season and make it a good way to finish the season.
Congratulations on the year so far and on 100 games, and good luck to you this week, Mark.
Thanks, Mac.
Thanks, Mac.
Thanks, Mac. Thanks, Chad.
So who was the mystery man standing in the middle of the Richmond club song after they had their win against Fremantle? Well, we found him. His name is Drac, and he's the Richmond Bootstudder, and he celebrated his 500th game for the club last weekend. Drac, thanks for joining us on Tigerland.
Pleasure. No worries.
Now, Drac, obviously not your real name. What is your real name, and how did you get the nickname Drac?
It's Ilmar Tilton's, and I got it when I used to be in the cheer squad back in the early 70s.
So you've been around. So you've been around the club for about 30 odd years then?
Yeah, about that. Yeah, since 1972.
And
30 years. Yeah.
When did you start as the Bootstudder?
Started in 1979 as an assistant, and then sort of took over looking after the seniors probably 1984.
So 500 senior games on the weekend. What does a Bootstudder's role involve? What's your week made up of?
Attending training sessions, making sure the boots are clean and maintained, and yeah, make sure that they're at the game each week.
How many hours a week would you put in to that sort of role? Because there's plenty of people like yourself that work pretty hard around the club on a voluntary basis and spend plenty of hours a week here. How many hours a week would you spend down at Punt Road?
20, 30, could be more. It depends on the program for the players. If they're training, say, four times a week, could be 4-5 hours each day, plus cleaning the boots and also match day. So yeah, probably about 30 to 40 maybe.
Now you would have been here when the Tigers won their last premiership in 1980. That must have been a special experience for you.
Oh yeah, it was really good. Yeah. You know, we were close to even in 1982, but 91, well, huge.
You must have had some favourite players over the years. There's lots of great players over at Richmond in the last quarter of a century or so. Any particularly stand out as being a favourite of Drac's?
The likes of Jeff, the Rainsers, the majority of the guys in 1980, you know, and later would have been, say, the Morris Riolis, Michael Mitchells.
So you like the flashy types?
Yeah, and also, you know, when I was in the cheer squad as well, it was, say, the Kevin Sheedys, the Robbie McGee's, you know.
I wouldn't call Sheed flashy.
No, but he was fairly hard, you know, he was hard and clean to the ball, and yeah, no.
Well, congratulations, 500 games is a fantastic effort. A lot of wonderful service over the years, and I know the Richmond Football Club certainly appreciated it, as evidenced by singing the song with the boys on the weekend. That must have been a really special moment.
Oh, it was. It was one moment that I'll never forget, and yeah, it was sort of just highlighted the whole day as well.
Well, congratulations, Drac. Thanks for joining us here on Tigerland.
Pleasure. No worries. Thanks a lot, Jason.
Well, it's time now to get up to date with everything that's happening around the club with our Tigerland bulletin board.
The Jack Dyer medal presentation on Monday, September...
Warriors return to the MCG this weekend when they host Hawthorn on Friday night. If you can't get along and support us, don't worry. You can catch all the action right here on Fox Footy. Catch us at the same time next week. And
Looking for and finding Andrew Cracker. High kick towards half forward. Numbers there for both sides. Things starting to go Richmond's way.
Goodbye, because I don't think I'm going to make it after this adventure, and if you're ever bored and you want a bit of a zen.
Just kicked 4 goals, 5 in his total career, has Robert Murphy. We know he's a lovely kick normally, just couldn't find it there. And so the Dogs to 2-3-15 and the Lions are 1-5-11. How have you assessed the game so far in terms of the physical nature of it, Malcolm?
No, I think it's
not like last week's at all, is it?
No, I'm actually finding the Bulldogs quite quickish, whether they can actually withstand, keep it going. Yeah.
Well, certainly taken them on early as Johnson. His kick's excellent. Just checking some of the possession getters so far. McMahon's got 8 for the Doggies. Smith, West and Darcy 7 apiece, while for Brisbane Lappin's got 8. Howe's got 6. This is Ashcroft. So we go down to Jared Waitley. More bad injury news for Justin Leppich.
Yeah, he's certainly injured his left wrist quarters. He's been carrying it around for a couple of minutes, just in obvious pain. He's just come off the ground and having it checked by the physio and the doctor now. Certainly his hand and his wrist. I'm not sure if he got kicked there, but certainly in a degree of pain. Simon Black also off under the blood rule.